Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. Coming up here on today's show, I got a little bit creative. I went into the kitchen and I started mixing up some trade ideas. So what you're going to see here are 5 trade ideas that the Raiders could potentially do to try to get up into the second, to try to get up to the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft. If you're like, Mitch, why are you talking about this? Shortly after the Davante Adams trade, Dave Ziegler was interviewed, and he basically said that he wishes that the Raiders had at least a pick in either the second or the first round. And it wasn't a shot at the fact that he didn't love the Davante Adams trade. If anything, he was one of the biggest reasons why the Davante Adams trade ended up going down. It was more drafts in Vegas. They wanted to be able to get some extra picks, and if I was a GM, of course I'd want to pick in the first or the second round. So what I did here is I got creative, okay? So please go down in the comments section right now and vote. Will the Raiders trade up in the NFL Draft? Type that Y for yes, or you can go ahead and type your N for no. Remember, the Raiders have only 5 picks in this year's draft. You have pick 86, round 3, and round 4 at 126. Round 5 is 164 and 165. And then in round 7 is at pick 227. So will the Raiders trade up in the NFL Draft? Y for yes or N for no? I know the Raiders plan on going with best player available, and I will go ahead and I will type my Y for yes if a good player ends up sliding down. So if one of the top offensive tackles on their big board slides down to middle of round second, maybe late round second, and Dave Ziegler's sitting there licking his lips a little bit, like, all right, I want to bring in that guy, then you go ahead, you pull the trigger, you figure it out. Even if you got to trade next year's picks, you make it happen. My 4 players that I see on the big board of, like, if these guys slide down the board, and it happens every year, certain prospects end up sliding. If Trevor Penning slides down the board, if Nakobe Dean, if Jordan Davis or Chris Olave, I am usually team trade down. I like having more picks because the NFL Draft is unpredictable. But if any of 4 of these players right here end up sliding down the board a little bit, I am okay with the Raiders being aggressive and going up and trying to get one of these guys. Now, these are round 1 trade-up candidates. Like, I'm giving up a lot to try to go up and get one of these players in round 1. These guys, on the other hand, are guys I'd be willing to go ahead and try to get in round 2. Trent McDuffie, Travis Jones, Devontae Wyatt, Bernard Raymond, Jameson Williams. And if anybody out there is like, Jameson Williams, I could see Jameson Williams falling down the board because of the injury issues and because some other wide receivers like Sky Moore. Yes, I said Sky Moore. A lot of people really like him a lot. Just trying to figure out ideas of players that I would target to trade up for. Now, we are live right now on Rumble, and this video is actually released on Rumble on Tuesday. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're like, Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. It's a reason to go ahead and give us a follow. Rumble.com/Raiders Report. Free and uncensored content so I can drop an F-bomb. You can go ahead and give us a follow, and if you're somebody who, when you're watching YouTube, if you minimize the screen, it stops the show on YouTube. One of the reasons why I love Rumble is because you can listen to it like a podcast, where if you're walking your dog, if you're driving, if you're taking a shower, I don't know what you're doing, whatever you decide to do, you can minimize the screen, and it'll still play in the background. It's one of the other reasons to go ahead and give us a follow on Rumble. So coming up here, guys, are 5 trade ideas for the Raiders, and before anybody asks, they're like, well, Mitch, can you move on from all those draft picks and could you get into the first round? Here's the thing, though. What I went ahead and did is there's a thing called the NFL trade value chart, and I'm not sitting up here saying the NFL teams, they look at this and they take it to heart. What I am saying is this, though. Teams do look at the NFL trade value chart. I should also mention the New Orleans Saints, they didn't get one of their comp picks, so technically this is 227, and that was just been recently updated, so that's on me. But I will say this. If you take all these picks, okay, all of these picks, and you put them into the trade value chart, it equals the 67th overall pick, a round 3 move. So if you want to try to get into round 2, if you want to try to get into round 1, you got to move some of your players, and you got to move a lot of draft capital. So that's what you're going to see on today's show. That's all I'm trying to do. Come up with ideas to get into round 2. And yes, the very last trade is getting into round 1. Let's go to draft day trade number 1. The Las Vegas Raiders, they receive pick number 43 overall from the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons, who do not have Calvin Ridley, who obviously don't have Julio Jones anymore, and he's been gone for a while. You go ahead, you get Bryan Edwards. Well, Bryan Edwards played in South Carolina, Atlanta. It's kind of close, right? You get a 2022 third-round pick, so 86 overall, and then the Raiders' second fifth-round pick at 165 overall. So with every single trade, I am going to ask you, and it's very important that you look at the screen and you see what I'm asking you to type. That way, when I go back after this video and I look in the comment section, I actually know what the hell you guys are talking about. So who wins this trade here? And if you want to go ahead and put these out on social media and tag me, these are always the ones that do the best, and I would appreciate it. So type Raiders or Falcons. Let me know who wins this trade. Let's go to draft day trade number 2. It's with the Chicago Bears, and a lot of times NFL teams, they create friendships. And what do I mean by that? When the Raiders went ahead and they hired Champ Kelly to be their assistant general manager, Kelly was previously with the Chicago Bears. They have a lot of connections with Chicago. On top of that, Chicago went ahead and they hired Matt Eberflus as their head coach. Eberflus comes from the Colts tree of wanting more draft picks, and they want more players to be able to build through the draft system. It's also one of the reasons why Chicago this past year or shouldn't even say past year, a few weeks ago, traded Khalil Mack away. So the Raiders in this deal, you get the 39th overall pick. One of the biggest needs for the Bears is offensive line. You give up on Alex Leatherwood, you eat the $5 million in dead cap hit. Not only are you giving up Leatherwood, you're giving up a third-round pick, and you're giving up a fourth-round pick. If anybody who's watching the show right now is like, Mitch, you're giving up a lot, all of these trades are based on the trade value chart. So it's essentially me seeing what NFL scouts, executives look at and how much picks are worth and how much players are worth, and me creating a fair trade. So this is not a crazy trade. This is probably what it would end up costing. So let me know, y'all. Who ends up winning this deal here? Is it the Las Vegas Raiders or is it the Chicago Bears? I should also mention that every single trade that you are going to see is going to be very different. Like, you're sure there's going to be certain players that might be able to pop up in different scenarios, but I didn't want to put another player more than once, and I wanted to give you just 5 different trade ideas. So if you think the Raiders win this deal here, I want you to go ahead and type LV for the Raiders or CHI for the Chicago Bears. Let's go to now the third trade idea, which is, this is getting creative, okay? And some of you are like, wait a minute, we're giving up a first-round pick. Yes. So a lot of times when a team looks at a first-round pick in next year's draft, they value it as a second-round pick this year. So essentially, what the Raiders are doing here is you're getting a second-round pick this year, which you're giving up a first-round pick next year. Second-round pick in 2022 is equal to a first-round pick in 2023 because a lot of things can happen. And the Philadelphia Eagles are a team that I've been told by my Eagles insider, I'll call them, is they want picks in next year's draft because if Jalen Hurts doesn't work out, then they can go ahead and package picks to go up and get a quarterback. The Raiders, they want a speedy wide receiver. Jalen Reagor, the receiver out of TCU just a few years ago, went in the first round ahead of Justin Jefferson. He's got tons and tons of speed. So you bring in a speedy Justin Reagor who has not played very well whatsoever in Philly. But you know what? I remember a lot of Eagles fans telling me there was a guy named Nelson Aguilar who didn't play well for them. Derek Carr made it happen. And if Derek Carr can make it work with Nelson Aguilar, I'm willing to get a little bit ballsy here and make it work for Jalen Reagor. So the Raiders in this idea, you get a speedy wide receiver who was a former first-round pick, and I had him as a round 2 grade. On top of that, you get the 51st overall pick. You don't give up any picks this year. Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, they go all in this season. They try to win right now, and if you're in a successful team, that 2023 first-round pick hopefully is the 32nd overall pick, right? So let me know down in the comments section. Who wins this trade? Type LVR for the Las Vegas Raiders or type PHI for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I'll tell you this, man. If any of these trades end up going down on draft day, hopefully you're tuned in and you are live with us over on Chat Sports. It's 3 days, nonstop coverage, all 7 rounds, all 262, 63 picks, whatever the hell it is. We're going to be live on YouTube. We're going to be live on Rumble. So all I want you to do, subscribe at youtube.com/chatsportstv and join the #1 most watched draft coverage for 4 years in a row. We're going to have a lot of fun, that I can promise you. Let's go to the fourth trade idea here. The Raiders and the Jets. So to get up to pick number 35, I also tried to target teams that had 2 second-round picks. The Eagles we're not one of those teams, but the Jets, they have 2 second-round picks. So to get up to pick 35, one of the biggest needs for New York, cornerback. One of the other biggest needs, defensive end. So essentially what I'm doing here is saying, okay, Trayvon Mullen, you can have him. Clelin Ferrell, you can have him. And we're also going to throw in our 3rd-round pick, 86 overall, to get up to pick number 35. Now, I'd also like to be able to figure out a way, could we get Denzel Mims, another very talented receiver out of Baylor who has not fit well whatsoever with the New York Jets. But let me know, who wins the deal? Type Las Vegas, or I want you to go ahead and type New York. And if you're like, man, you're asking me to type a lot of different stuff on today's show, I'm doing it because I want you to be able to go down in the comments and let me know, but that way I also know what the hell you're talking about. So the first 4 trades that you saw here on today's show were all trying to get into the 2nd round. The final trade is the Raiders getting into the 1st round. So the Las Vegas Raiders are going to make a move with the Tennessee Titans. And the reason why I picked the Titans is because, realistically, if you're going to get into the 1st round, you need to find somebody that's a little bit later on. And I'm always a big believer that you need to find someone who you have connections with. And the connections are Mike Vrabel, connections with some Patriots coaches. So let's just say the Raiders, they get a 1st-round pick, 26 overall in this year's draft. One of the biggest needs right now for Tennessee is offensive line and safety. You get Johnathan Abram, you get John Simpson, and then on top of that, you get the Raiders' 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick in next year's draft. And if I'm being 100% honest with y'all, I still don't even know if this would be enough. When I looked at the trade value chart, the Raiders fell just short in terms of value. You might have to go ahead and throw in like a 4th or maybe a 5th-round pick in this year's draft to make this happen. So who wins the deal, y'all? Type R for the Raiders, type T for the Titans. I know I threw a lot of different stuff at you today, but today's show was more about being creative and trying to educate y'all and just let you know how much it would cost to try to move up. I get it. Dave Ziegler might want to do this. A lot of Raider fans out there might want to do this. And a lot of people out in Las Vegas might want this to happen. But to move up into trades, people value picks a lot. And sometimes you got to give up a little bit more than what it's worth. So before we go through all these trades and before I tell you which trade idea is my favorite that I showed, I want you guys to also set a reminder that we have a special live show on the Raiders Report on Sunday. I got a big announcement, and I wanted to be able to share it with y'all on Easter. I know it's an off day for a lot of people. I know it's a holiday, and it's a holiday for me too. And to be honest, my girlfriend wasn't 100% happy that I couldn't go to church on Sunday. But I was like, babe, no, I gotta do my thing here. So I'm going to do a special live show at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific. I have really, really big news that I want to be able to share with y'all, and we're going to talk about a few different things, and we're going to just do a normal Raiders show like we do on YouTube. So please subscribe. Also, the video is already scheduled, so you can actually already go to YouTube, and you can already click into the video and click the reminder bell. That way you don't miss it. So let's quickly go through now all 5 trades, and let me know which trade is your favorite, and once we go through all 5, I'll tell you which trade out of all these is my favorite. So if you like trade 1, go ahead and type 1. If you think trade 2 is the best deal for the silver and black, then go ahead and type 2. What about trade 3, where you're getting Jalen Reagor and you're giving up your 1st-round pick? You can go ahead and type 3. The 4th trade, where the Raiders get 35th overall, you move on from Mullen, you move on from Clee, and you get the 86th overall pick. Or is it the final trade? Johnathan Abram, John Simpson, a 2nd and a 3rd-round pick. Out of all of those trades, my favorite is actually number 5 because I did it on purpose. It's the best value trade. And you're getting a 26th overall pick. Sure, you're going to have picks next year, but the team needs to win now. And the fact that you didn't give up a 1st-round pick, the fact that, sure, you're moving on from some other players, but it's the best value. However, the one that I think is the most realistic is the Atlanta Falcons trade, the very first one that I put on the show. If you made it this far in the video, guys, we're doing something right. So please, reminder, give us a follow over on Rumble at rumble.com/RaidersReport. And if you want more Raiders content, go ahead and like the video.